now to discuss the Kavanaugh hearing, the U.S. economy, and more. I'm joined by House Financial Services Committee member and U.S. Congressman from Wisconsin, SEAN DUFFY. Congressman, thank you for being here.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Raymond. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I don't like the idea that you're not on set with me, but I'm going to give you a pass this time. Judge Brett Kavanaugh and his accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, testified on Capitol Hill today. I've said earlier this week that this is really a credibility contest, not a trial. Your thoughts on what you're seeing here? Have we learned anything at all?
Listen, it's not a trial, Raymond, but I was a former prosecutor for 10 years. I dealt with sex crimes, and we always analyze evidence, the strength of the evidence, the recollection of the witness, and a lot of that is missing in the testimony against Brett Kavanaugh. I think this is just straight up politics. This is giving a reason, I think, for Democrats to go after Brett Kavanaugh, and I think the platform and the forum and the length of time that Democrats have extracted from Republicans, I think it's going to be challenging for Brett Kavanaugh to be confirmed. And many may not agree with me on that, but I just think the politics is stacking up against him, not necessarily any evidence.
Wow. How do you think Republicans will be judged or not judged in these midterm elections by the way they handled these accusers of Brett Kavanaugh? Will this have an impact on the midterms, do you think?
Well, what we know is that Democrats are highly energized and motivated to vote this coming November. They're not big fans of President Trump. Republicans have been somewhat muted in their energy and enthusiasm to go to the ballot box. However, we know that the Supreme Court process, making sure that you have strict constructionists, people who want to follow the Constitution, that motivates Republicans, that debate and that argument. And so what I think's been taking place over the last week and a half with Brett Kavanaugh and these accusers, I think energizes the Republican base, the evangelical base to come on out and vote to make sure, whether it's in a House race or in a Senate race, that there's a Republican majority to at least make sure the courts are fair. So I think this can play actually in favor of Republican energy.
Freedom Caucus members Congressman Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan have said that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein should be forced to testify regarding allegations that he discussed secretly recording Trump with a wire and using the 25th Amendment to remove him from office. Your thoughts? Is it time for Rosenstein to go, and is that wise, given that midterms are a month away?
So first off, I believe in transparency. And I think, I have no problem with Rosenstein coming to the House and testifying about what he said and what the context of those remarks were. However, let's make no mistake, Raymond, that Rod Rosenstein, he works for the president. He's in the president's administration, and the president has the authority to keep him or fire him. They're going to go through that process and have a meeting potentially later on this week. And the president needs to decide this. Because the president's the direct employer. Now, as an American and as a congressman, I would love to hear the context of the leading guy on the Russian investigation in the Department of Justice, what he's saying about trying to take out a sitting U.S. president that was duly elected by states like mine, like Wisconsin. That's outrageous, depending on the context.
I want to move on to the president on the international stage, and then I'm going to bring it home to why this matters, because I know the things he's talking about, the trade deals he's engaging, it does have a real-world impact for many, certainly people in your district and across the country. Donald Trump addressed the UN General Assembly on Tuesday, and he praised America's booming economy. The president touted America's new relationship with North Korea. He also had some tough talk when it came to certain countries. And he had this to say about Iran. Watch.
We cannot allow the world's leading sponsor of terrorism to possess the planet's most dangerous weapons. We cannot allow a regime that chants death to America and that threatens Israel with annihilation to possess the means to deliver a nuclear warhead to any city on earth. Just can't do it. We ask all nations to isolate Iran's regime as long as its aggression continues, and we ask all nations to support Iran's people as they struggle to reclaim their religious and righteous destiny.
Now, Congressman Duffy, Iranian leader Rouhani said the United States is alone in the world today. Is it?
Well, no, first, Raymond, we have to recognize that Donald Trump is clearly identifying the threat of Iran and crisply laying out the fact that we can't allow them to have nuclear weapons. And it's that kind of leadership that I think is refreshing for Americans, but also for others around the world to say, listen, what does the Middle East look like? What does the world look like if you have the radicals, the lead sponsor of terrorists in Iran, with nuclear weapons? This is absolutely unacceptable, and I think it's American leadership again that will prohibit that from happening. But Raymond, in the intro to this segment, you talked about Donald Trump referencing the economy and the economic growth. We have a great debate going on in America today between capitalism and socialism. And as Catholics, we look at what socialism does for freedom of religion, for upward mobility, for prosperity, for being able to provide for your family, to actually have a family, and it decimates cultures and communities. Look at Venezuela, Cuba, the old Soviet Union. It never works. And so as we usually debate these topics, right now you got to see what free enterprise American capitalism looks like with a growing economy. We have historic unemployment rates. We have wage growth. We have the middle class growing. This is absolutely amazing. When you streamline regulation, when you lower taxes, things happen where people spend their money, they invest their money, they hire people in their communities. And it's remarkable, but the fact that we're debating and pushing off socialism is, I think, troubling, and one of the issues that are at the ballot box this next election.
Sean, at a UN Security Council meeting on Wednesday, the president also had some tough talk for China, and he accused the country of interfering in U.S. politics. Listen.
Regrettably, we found that China has been attempting to interfere in our upcoming 2018 election, coming up in November, against my administration. They do not want me or us to win because I am the first president ever to challenge China on trade. And we are winning on trade.
Congressman Duffy, the president really didn't offer any proof of interference by China. What do you make of that accusation? And are we winning on trade when the Chinese are threatening billions in tariffs?
So, first of all, I think the president gets information and briefings that other members of Congress and the American people don't have. So do I think there's probably documentation and evidence to back up the president's remarks in regard to China's influence in the upcoming election? Yes. And do I think, as tough as Donald Trump has been on China on trade, do they want to see him defeated and his party defeated? Absolutely, that makes sense. This is going to take some time, though, with China, Raymond. I mean, they're proud. They like the deal they have with America in the sense that they can close off their markets with tariffs and non-tariff barriers, all the while manufacturing products and selling them tariff-free in the United States. They have no problem stealing American technology. By the way, when we go to market after our company invested, several millions of dollars in the technology, and the Chinese company that stole it has no cost to recoup, I mean, we can't compete. And so I think Donald Trump's effort to bring parity to trade is overdue, but also it's going to take more time. You're going to see the NAFTA deal come to fruition faster, Europe after that, but this could be a prolonged year-and-a-half, 2-year, 3-year fight with China before we resolve our trade disputes.
Well, there was also an alleged Chinese spy arrested in Chicago this week, an Army reservist, we should point out. And there's a new round of tariffs that the president has imposed on $200 million worth of Chinese goods, $200 billion worth of Chinese goods. Now, as you look to the midterms, Congressman Duffy, are the American people worried about these tariffs and the trade wars? I know the Department of Agriculture is promising a $5 billion offset to some of these trade disputes for farmers. Isn't that manipulation of the process?
Right. So let's make no mistake, one of the great American exports is our agriculture products. In my home state of Wisconsin, it's dairy and cranberries and ginseng. And when people or other countries see that we're trying to bring equal our trade relationships, what they do is they go after our agriculture industry. We know that the president's trying to help prop them up as they're being attacked, and it hasn't worked thus far. And I would just tell you this, Donald Trump in his speech yesterday said that our farmers are patriots. And he's absolutely right. They love America. They wave their flags. They want us to have fair and free trade, tariff-free. So look at Canada. They want to sell their autos and their auto parts into America. They want to sell their egg products into America. They want to sell their timber into America, tariff-free. But when we want to sell Wisconsin dairy into Canada, they want to charge us 200 to 300% in tariffs on our dairy products. It's just fundamentally unfair. And for Donald Trump to fight to make these things and trade relationships more fair is smart and I think appreciated. With that said, our farmers are having a tough time, and they were having a hard time on their pricing before the tariff dispute, and it's been even harder after. And so I think a lot of them hope that this gets resolved sooner rather than later. But I'll tell you, thus far, they're sticking with the president because they love that he loves America just like them.
Well, final question. This economy is certainly hot. The U.S. consumer confidence hit an 18-year high. Unemployment is down to 3.9%. What impact will all of this have in the midterms? We look at these generic ballots. The Democrats seem to have a 12-point advantage. But at the same time, favorability among Republicans rose by 9 points in the last poll, where you're actually above the Democrats by a point. Yeah. What do you make of all that? How do you think this is going to shake out?
Yeah, I don't think Americans like chaos. And if you look at the hearings in the Senate, they see that as chaotic. We're going to finish up our budget process this week in the House. We're going to go back to our districts, and we're going to talk about all the good work we've done that helped grow the economy, all that we've done for border security or fighting opioids or human trafficking, what we've done to rebuild our military or bring us to American energy independence. And it's those issues, Raymond, what we've done for American families in our districts that I think are going to help us actually prevail in the upcoming election. But again, it's about who turns out. And just if I can make one quick note, we follow the generic ballot, which you mentioned. The Republicans are down by 12. But that generic ballot, Raymond, it goes up and down almost like the stock market. Normally, it takes a long time. It gently rises and falls. But in this environment, it's up and down, several times in a week. And so it depends on what that generic ballot is going to be actually at the first Tuesday in November when Americans go to vote. And if Republicans are doing well, I think we're going to hold the House. But if we don't keep the House, I'll tell you this, it's not going to be a wave. I think we only lose it by 10 seats. If we keep it, I think Republicans keep it by only a 5 to 7 vote majority. So it's going to be close no matter which way it goes.
Congressman SEAN DUFFY, we will check in with you soon. I also have to get an update on the flood insurance reform, which I know you're in the middle of, but I've got to run. I'm out of time, but we'll do it next time.
Next time, Raymond.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.